Patty. How are you?
I'm doing well, Katie. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. We're here to talk about pet loss and grief as we approach the holidays, and I think this is just a really, nostalgic, potentially difficult time for those of us who've lost a beloved animal.
Totally agree. Thanks for helping. I hate to use this phrase, but it's true, is unpacking all of this because there's so much. There's all the visual cues, the sights, the sounds, the smells. They bring back a lot of overwhelming feelings. Sometimes people get overwhelmed and they're like, why? I don't know why, this is happening now. But a lot of it is just connected to those experiences and those feelings.
No, that's absolutely it. And, we need to remind ourselves that grief doesn't magically end at a certain point, a calendar year, or however long it's been. But reminders, especially around the holidays, can bring back the pain of our loss, even if it's been years. And I think it's really important to know, and I know we're going to kind of dive into this, but if you are feeling grief at this time of the year, it is not a setback whatsoever. It's just a reminder of how much you loved your animal and how important their life was to you and continues to be.
Now, you were telling me that one of those greatest connection, I guess, senses is smell.
Yes, it is. Smell is incredibly powerful with regards to memory because it hits really deep in our brain, in the part of our brain that's responsible for memories. So while all senses, and we're each somewhat inclined, maybe you're particularly visual or artistic, or you're very auditory, hearing something, maybe you have a passion for music, but from a psychological, scientific point of view, I don't think people realize how powerful smell is. And the holidays are full of smells. As you say that, I have a candle lit behind me.
True.
In honor of my beloved cat, Quinn, who passed away about a decade ago. But just lighting this candle for him during the holidays is one way I remember him, but that the smell is really powerful.
I did not know that. And I hadn't even thought of that, all the smells that come with the holidays, like pine and food cooking on the stove. It's different than it is the rest of the year. Because that's been a question that I always had was, Teddy's been gone now for 8 years. Why this particular time? Like he's gone Monday through Sunday every day, for years. But there is a particular time that those memories come flooding forward.
I think this is the time of the year where society really emphasizes slowing down, being inside, being together, being grateful. It's kind of what I would consider the most sentimental, nostalgic time of the year. I think in spring and summer, we're outside, we're doing things. It's a very active time of the year. But I think this is the time where things slow down and there's a real emphasis on being with loved ones, being together, getting together, Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving, and we're missing our favorite little creature. And so I think that's why these memories and these reminders are particularly painful. Also, I can't help but thinking, I was just hearing this, Patty, on the TV, but it's the most wonderful time of the year. That's a song, right? And I think for those of us who are in grief or who are deeply missing our beloved pet, it's not
the most
wonderful. The hardest time of the year.
Yeah, I was just thinking earlier, I thought comfort and joy. Oh boy.
Right. And
different for everyone. Not always. And I think one of the biggest questions that I get from people is, I want to be around my family and friends. I don't want to be away from them for the potential, gathering. I also don't know how I feel about being asked a bunch of questions. And I saw, I've heard people say, so and so, the first person that says to me, oh, aren't you over that yet? And who you can talk to and who you can't, basically. Um, but I think for some people, it brings about a lot of anxiety about going into that holiday party, or declining the holiday party and coming up with a reason why I don't want to be around everybody, and not get slammed with, oh, come on, you'll feel so much better once you get here.
I'd love to spend a few minutes talking about this because I think this is so important, and I did get a bunch of messages on this. So special dates such as Thanksgiving, they really can create such a sharp contrast for those of us who have lost a pet. Perhaps a little piece of us does want to feel the hope and the joy and the peace, as you were saying, of the season, but we're at the same time reminded of the devastating loss, and we can experience all that heartbreak for all the reasons we just shared. And we might even feel guilty for enjoying ourselves.
Yeah.
And you and I were speaking before we came on, and music, special meals, family traditions, decorations, and other rituals, they're really meant to spark this special time. But for many of us, they can be really painful reminders of the pet who's no longer here with us. So I do have a few coping strategies that I'd love to share.
Oh, excellent.
So the first, and I'm gonna get comfortable. You know me, Patty. I
had to get rid of this pillow.
So everyone get comfortable and get cozy with
Hunker.
us. But the first is to set healthy boundaries. So please do not feel like you have to attend every event that you're invited to, or participate in traditions that are going to be real reminders of your pet. So for example, if engaging in a really specific activity that maybe you do every year is just going to be too painful this year, it's absolutely okay to hold off. And as you were saying, our loved ones may really try to push or convince us to come, thinking that they're helping, but acts of self-care and time spent alone are really healing too. And they're just trying to look out for you. But I like to point that out because I don't want you to feel any guilt about saying no.
So, Katie, I suck at boundaries.
Okay.
Totally suck. Like I had gotten to the point where I would have some preset responses so that I didn't get caught with my guard down, because people can just talk me into and lure me in, and then I get ambivalent. I get angry because I didn't have good boundaries.
Well, then exactly, Patty, you took the words out of my mouth. You're going to get resentful, and I'll be 100% honest. Boundaries are not my strong point.
Great.
I think animal lovers are empaths. We give and we give and we give because that's how we get self-validation. It does get easier with I see a lot of hearts going off on that one. It does get easier with practice. And I have some just kind of on my phone. My phone I was going to grab it, but obviously we're using it. I just have some go-to lines that I text, like, thank you so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate, but I won't be able to make it. You do not have to give an excuse, a reason why. That's good enough. And then after I send it, I'm always so cringy. I step outside for a few minutes and I kind of just like shake it off. I've held my boundary, and it's
okay.
Yeah, that can be really helpful. You do not need to explain to anyone why you're not.
I always feel like I have to give an explanation because I feel like I am shunning the invitation instead of thinking of taking care of myself. I think of I'm hurting feelings.
Gosh, Patty, I think if you can say something that really expresses your gratitude for the invitation, that's more than enough.
Okay.
I really think that, and we both do this. I've got, by the time I'm finished explaining, I've written them a book about how grateful I am to be invited and all the reasons I can't be there.
Right.
But that's not necessary. This is really a time to protect your energy and the quiet or whatever it is that you need. I'd love everyone watching to focus on what they need to get through the holidays, with the caveat that you're allowed to change your mind at any time. If you say you're going to be there, but then the day of you don't feel like going, that's okay.
I
Or,
like that one.
yes.
I love a back door.
Oh, so you touched on my next one, and I call it, I
love this because I haven't seen these yet.
Well, I always am a huge proponent, especially with these gatherings, of having an exit strategy. So what I mean is, if you can create a really simple plan for how you're going to manage the holiday or the event that maybe just isn't sitting well with you, you're going to feel much more in control of this, what we feel like is a daunting situation. So for example, I always say, either drive yourself. Let's just use Thanksgiving dinner for clarity. If it's not at your home, either drive yourself or ask a loved one to take you that's willing to leave if the event starts to become too much. And this really allows us to relieve some of that anxiety over how sad or how difficult, or like you said, I can't deal with the questions. Knowing that you can easily leave at any time really can take away a lot of that fear and a lot of that nervousness that you're feeling. And actually, it's twofold, because this allows us to potentially enjoy or really savor the time, instead of like knowing that you're stuck or trapped there.
Yes.
So that's, an exit strategy.
That's a biggie. Well,
yes.
I think that causes you to relax just a little bit more if you know you have a way out.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I think, the overall, something I like to remind everyone that I work with is to consider what your pet would want for you that day, that holiday, that event. It can be really helpful to imagine the lives that they would want for us and how they'd want us to feel. And I strongly believe with everything in me that, the love and the closeness that you shared, they'd want you to, that they would want those feelings to sustain us during these really challenging times.
I love that. That is definitely a good, clean, clear-cut strategy.
Well, these are, like you and I were sharing right before we jumped on, these holidays, they come with the full spectrum of emotions, excitement, guilt, dread, sadness, all within potentially just a few minutes. And we really need to let ourselves process all those feelings without any judgment. Like, if I find myself laughing, there shouldn't be any guilt or shame in that.
Right?
Doesn't mean I love yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean I'm missing Jem or, your pets any less, or that we shouldn't, find those brief glimpses of happiness during the season. And this always goes, but grief is not linear, and there are absolutely no rules for how we should be feeling during this, very nostalgic, sentimental season.
I heard something a long time ago that always sticks with me, and it's a little crude, but we'll deal with it. And it was, get rid of all the shoulds, because you will should all over yourself.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, you will bury yourself in a pile of should.
In a pile of shoulds.
It's true, though.
It is. And one of the things that, I see cropping up is so tough. You love your friends, you love your family, but not everyone is really capable of empathy. And the best they can do is sympathy. And there's a huge difference between sympathy and empathy. And I would love for you to tease out those threads just a little bit for us, because that's kind of a late breaking discovery in my life. You know, I kind of thought they went hand in hand.
Oh no, Patty, that's actually huge. And this conversation actually might sound a little harsh at times because I think it takes a long time for us to learn this. But when we're going through grief, specifically about animals, we really have to surround ourselves with people that understand and get it. So that empathy piece, not just expressing the sympathy, I'm so sorry for your loss. That's kind of put on you and then they're done. But empathy is about being with people who truly understand it because they've been through it and they know what it feels like. They can empathize with you. And I say it sounds a little harsh because, you know, wouldn't it be glorious and wonderful if our family, our friends just got it and they were there for us and they said all the right things and they hugged us, or, you know, however we need to feel support. But when they're not, you know, first time, if we don't get it, okay, we didn't know. But if we keep going back to the people that have heard us with regards to this topic, that starts to become on us. Because when we have expectations of the people in our lives and then they come in here, that's where all the hurt feelings.
Right. You're setting expectations on them that they're unable to fulfill.
That's it. It's not that they don't want to fulfill it.
They just can't.
Exactly. They cannot. They don't have that personality trait or that ability to empathize with you in this particular area.
I was told a long time ago that you keep doing that. That is like going to the hardware store and getting pissed because there are no grapefruits for sale. Isn't that great?
I love that. And that's exactly it. If you keep going back to the people who, because they're just not able to, and I think if we view it through that lens, we can gain a little clarity. But if we keep going back to the people who aren't able to care for us in the way that we need to be cared for, we're just going to keep getting our feelings smashed. And that's on us after a while. That's why I think support groups and Instagram live conversations like this are just so deeply important so that you can connect with those of us that get it.
Oh, I don't think there can be enough of this. Like I just, the more people I talk to, the more I realize how much we really need one another to sometimes you just need the support. Sometimes you just need the permission. Like I had somebody tell me, you know, my energy's so low. I don't want to get into my routine. I feel like I should have moved past this point by now. And I'm like, you know what, if your mind and your body are telling you to just slow it down, you owe it to yourself to set your own pace. And if you feel like you're being a wackadoodle because you don't want to you know, you want to walk through the food aisle at PetSmart, but you know it's going to make you upset, but you just want to go touch the bags of what you used to buy. You know what? Buy a bag. Put your dog's name on it and deliver it to the shelter and say, hey, we did a good thing together. We did this. You know, create legacy items for yourself. Wash that bowl, wash it 100 times, put it down on the ground, talk out loud, say, let's go take a walk. Let's curl up and watch some TV together. You're not crazy. Sometimes your body craves that routine and anchors you into a space of self-healing, in my opinion, my lay opinion.
No, gosh, and Patty, think about what you just said and how deeply moving that is and how easy it is for most of us to tell a friend or a loved one that. But why is it when we tell that to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we beat ourselves up, or we call ourselves, we put a label on ourselves.
What was
But
I thinking? Yeah.
exactly, but it's the best advice that you could offer to a friend. Take care of yourself. Do what feels comforting. It's interesting that you say though the food at the grocery store, because I do feel like that is a really unexpected reminder that comes up. Like you go into the grocery store and your pet's favorite treats or their favorite food is on sale and it's right there in the display, and all of a sudden you're crying on aisle 6. Maybe that's
Yes.
just, but that,
No, me too.
and that, I think that I do have, reminders during the holidays are gonna be everywhere. And, certain, like you just said, certain reminders are inevitable, such as, if we go to visit their grave, or we visit the place in our home where we have their urn, like I have Jem's ashes on the bookshelf, the anniversary, we were talking about anniversaries earlier, anniversaries of their death, or holiday events they would have enjoyed. But there's a lot of moments during the holidays that we can't control. So seeing our pets food on sale, or our coworkers may share that they're adopting a pet during the holidays, or they're giving their son or daughter a pet, and hearing about another a loved one's pet that's passed away during this time, that can also be incredibly overwhelming.
Oh,
So
sure.
if we have a few minutes, I'd love to offer some really effective coping strategies for how to deal with very specific with these types of reminders during the holidays.
Oh, absolutely. Please.
Okay. So I think the first one is to accept that reminders, they're going to be anywhere. And so that they will come up, and to just kind of be prepared that most of us are not going to make it through the holidays without being reminded at least a few times of our beloved animals. I think knowing what to expect when the grief returns. So these reactions, they may phase us for a few minutes, a few hours, a day, or more. Maybe all through the holiday season. I just want to validate that 1,000%. And we may feel the level of pain might be as intense as those first few days and weeks after we lost our pet. And our reactions to these reminders can range the full spectrum. Again, I want to validate every feeling that comes up for you and every thought that comes up for you during this time. So in terms of doing something about them, something that can be really helpful is to plan a distraction on special days. So planning an activity that typically you usually love, maybe a painting class or a cultural event. There's so many going on during the holidays. On those days when you're likely to feel really alone or lonely, you don't have to go. Again, if you decide that day that you're not feeling it, but having something to look forward to sometimes can really help. I like to schedule a time to reminisce about my animal, about Jem, and that's a set time. So I kind of remember my favorite things about him. I look through all my old photos, and it's just a very sacred, special time dedicated to Jem. You might start a new tradition that you find really heartwarming. So donating every year on a set date to an animal welfare organization in your pet's name. You can plant something in their honor. You can, use decorations, like have their image put on an ornament or build a little altar to them. There's some really great ideas out there right now for creatives. Or just dedicate, it could be something as simple as dedicating an hour of your time in their honor. And then I also find it really helpful to connect. I see that the heart's going off. To connect with others. So this is a time to draw those people in who really get it, and find someone that's going to encourage you to talk about your loss, or go out to lunch, and that is Jem's lunch. All we do is talk about Jem.
Aw.
And I think that's really helpful. Or we go around, if you are going to be gathered this Thursday, ask everyone to go around the table. You might want to let them know first so they can prepare their answer, but go around the table and have them share their favorite memory of imagine how good that would feel in that moment.
And do a little toast. And yeah, just, I love that. Our little kitty Mousy, I told this story a while back, but it just seems so befitting. Her name was Sarah, and somehow her name morphed into Mousy. And all pet lovers truly, I think, can understand this. That they always end up with like 14 names, and so
Totally.
she would always make this like meep, meep, meep noise. And so we were like, you sound like a little mouse, mousy, mouse, mouse. And then we had a mousy voice and we'd use that. But the story, and this is true to life, we would put candy canes on our Christmas tree. Well, Mousy would take them off the tree, and we'd get up in the morning and she had chewed the ends of each one of the peppermint sticks. And so we decided this might not be good for her, because it's like plastic and all this stuff. So for that Christmas, we took them all off the tree and we put them in a drawer. Well, the next morning we get up, she opened the cabinet under the drawer and stuck her little paw over the top and pulled them all out, and they were all chewed up. So the reason I tell you this is that every year when we put up our tree, Mousy has her own special candy cane. And she's been gone for 12 years now, but it doesn't matter. That's our family tradition is, do you have the Mousy candy cane? Everybody has something a little special, and that's what we put on the tree.
Patty, I love that. And that's exactly it. And I think, you could even have a whole dedicated tree to her. Like, you make a new ornament every year and there's a small ceremony when you hang it. Or
I love that.
I'm thinking I'll be in Sacramento for the holidays, both of these upcoming holidays. And I just want to, maybe I'll go deliver some, every SPCA, Humane Society Animal Welfare Organization right now has a wish list.
Oh,
maybe
yes.
I'll just pick a few items and won't even put my name. I'll just put from Jem. And that's, how could that not make you feel so good about, that's what Jem would want, helping other animals.
I think that is what it goes back to, is what would they want you to do? What would be top on their list? Like this guy behind me, O'Malley, we said goodbye in May, 22 years old. And by the time he was 21, all he wanted was temptation treats. And I'm like, hey, you live to be 21, all the temptation treats you want. And so temptations go to all the humane societies from O'Malley, because O'Malley thinks the world should be filled with temptation treats.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Oh yeah, he was something. He was a force. A total force. We tell O'Malley stories to this day, and it does make me feel better. It doesn't make me feel sad.
It absolutely does. And it takes, everyone's different, right, Patty? It's going to be on a different timeline. Some of us, that first evening, Jem passed away at 5:00. Or that's when we got the call from the vet. But some of us are ready to start talking about it that evening. Some of us need a few days and a few weeks. Everyone is as different as a dog's nose print. And so just realizing that too. And again, nothing's ever linear. If you feel like sharing, but then the next day you don't, that's valid, 1,000%. So
do we have time to talk about something that I really feel like we could all use your advice on?
Of course, I have all the time in the world. Always. This is like,
oh, wonderful. I didn't know if we had a cutoff or something. Well, good, because anticipatory grief. I get a lot of questions about, I've gotten some bad news. I'm just hoping that we can make it through the holidays. I'm hoping she or he can last through Christmas. And you and I discussed a little bit about this because I was feeling like I was being a little bit harsh because I was asking that person to maybe tamp down some of their anxiety and not pass that on to their animals so that they don't feel like something's wrong and that you have time afterwards to be sad. But right now, let's keep collecting those memories. Let's keep having those moments together. What do you have to offer for that, Katie?
Sure. Of course. And I think anticipatory grief is actually, for me, and I think many people that I work with, I actually think it's so much harder than when they pass, because they're here right now, and we want to make every moment count, right? So not only do we put so much pressure on ourselves, and then that's only exacerbated during the holidays. We've got to make their last holiday season the best time. But we become so attuned to every little detail. Oh, he didn't eat that treat. Oh, she doesn't want to go for a walk. Like, we have these blinders on, and we, Patty, honestly could start driving ourselves crazy.
Yeah.
So I like to approach this in a two-pronged way. So the first is going to be clinical, and then we'll kind of delve into the psychological. But there's a vet, her name is Dr. Alice, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Villalobos, and she came up kind of with a checklist, not kind of, she did come up with a checklist about really examining our pets' quality of life. And I'm happy to post this after or share it with you, but I think it can be really helpful because it looks at this time from a very qualitative perspective. So what she writes is that, a lot of us really hope that our pets will indicate to us when it's time, or they'll have a natural death, because, they're members of our family. And the thought of euthanasia is not something that any of us, especially during the holidays, want to think about, so that we cling to, oh, we'll know when it's time, or they'll pass naturally. But according to Dr. Villalobos, who's an oncology veterinarian, very renowned, a natural death or putting something off can prolong the suffering that often we as their guardians don't see, because animals typically are much more stoic in hiding any kind of physical pain. Also, we as their guardians, we're trying to protect them from everything possible, so that they live a long time. But what she says is sometimes it's too long. And so to help us better understand from a veterinary science perspective, she developed this decision tool, which I'll post. It's much more in depth than we're going to talk about right now. But she has you rank on a scale of 0 to 10 several categories that include hurt, hunger, hydration, hygiene, happiness, mobility. And also, I think it all comes down to, are they still having more good days than bad? And she says that if, us as guardians, if we can talk to our vet about the ways we can, improve their life, and if that's still an opportunity, that's a wonderful conversation to have. Please don't be afraid to ask your vet these very real questions. But if we do wait too long, hoping they'll give us a sign, or hoping that they'll pass naturally, it could, that's not kind or peaceful either.
But once again, that's putting yourself into a place of what would they want.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, it's tough because we get so many messages, trust our intuition, your pet's best. And, veterinarians, vet techs, vet med staff, they're the experts on this. And I think, it's always healthy to get a second, a third opinion even. But finding that balance between our intuition and what the doctors and the veterinary nurses are telling us to. And then, when it does come time, now I'm kind of switching to the psychological perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When it is time to say goodbye, if our animal's quality of life has diminished to a point where medicine is no longer helpful, therapies are no longer able to help, euthanasia is frequently viewed, as veterinarians as the only and best humane choice. And once you have resolved with your vet, with staff, to end the animal suffering, as devastating and heartbreaking as it's going to be, and it is going to be, it's going to be one of the very worst days of your life. So many vets have told me that euthanasia is never a mistake. Better a day
I
too
agree with that.
soon than a day too late. And I remember the first time I heard that, I was floored. But it's so, so true. And if we delay the decision in the hope that one more day is going to make a difference, this could actually really mean one more day of distress for the both of you.
For the both of you, yes, very much so.
And you're
But we also, and I know you believe this too, we beat ourselves up on the other side of that of, was it too soon? Was it too late? Was it too soon? Was it too late? And really, you're in the window, right?
exactly.
You're in the window. Cut yourself some slack. But as you're approaching it, it is better too soon than too late. It's harder too soon than too late. But on the other side of it, if it actually was too late, that's hard too. None of this is easy. It's messy as hell. Sorry.
No, that's it. This is, I'm a big cursor in real life, but you know that, Patty. I will refrain. But this is messy AF. There's, my goodness, everyone watching this, we're humans.
Yes.
We don't have any supernatural powers. We don't know. All we can really do is our best on behalf of our animals.
With the information we're given too. I hear that all the time. If only I had known. But there are things sometimes that you're not going to know.
No, absolutely not. And I want to say really quickly that I had one more point I really wanted to make, because I think that if you do put it off, your animal's going to try and hold on for you.
Oh, absolutely.
You and I are such big believers that science is only starting to show how brilliant and empathic animals are. And I do think, when we push this off, they're going to hang in there as long as they can for us, because they love us. And then one more thing, no one ever wants to have this conversation with your vet, but if you know what to expect that day, and I'm talking really clinically what to expect.
Huge. Yes, because I mean, I have, I've been in animal welfare my entire career, like yourself, and I had a multiple pet household. So there's always going to be one in that house that you are going to feel closer to than another. That's just normal chemistry, but you love them all, right? Yeah. However, when one of them passes, it's not that you don't feel it. It's that you have to get back up and feed and clean and take care of the rest of the crew. You don't get to stop. And I have my very best friend in the whole world. She has had one cat after another. So, I was thinking about this morning. We had Tootsie till she was 18, and then she had Canute till she was like, I think 34. So for her, and I'm getting somewhere with this, I promise.
Well, no.
For her,
all day. This is the most important thing to me ever.
Well, the thing that I had to think about was, for her, the actual euthanasia process, she has visited once every 18 to 20 years. because my math was a little off on the last one. So she was like a Siamese cat, you know, one and then one. She's only in the 56 years we've been friends had 4 cats. So knowing what to expect when you go into that room, I don't know if you can tell, I feel very passionate about this, but knowing what to expect is so super important. It's because things have changed over the years. And I, as a veterinary practice owner for 10 years, I mean, that was to me one of the critical points to discuss with someone, to be there for them, to do things exactly the way they wanted them done, but to also let them know the science, the actual event, and how that was going to play out. It was so helpful to people to know that.
Well, uncertainty is just such a fickle, I'll use beast. Uncertainty, it truly is, because when we don't know, when our mind doesn't know what's going to happen, it fills in the blanks.
Yes.
And it fills in the blanks with the absolute worst case scenario. So again, I want to validate that no one wants to have this conversation ever, but if you can surmount that hurdle of having it with your vet, preferably, you know, with some time to digest and process it, it will serve you then. It's still going to be the absolute worst day of your life, but it will serve you from a psychological mental health perspective. And I also think, Patty, giving some time to, just like you were saying, to what you need that day. Do you want a loved one to drive you and be there with you? Do you want to be there by yourself? You know, what is it that you need someone to drive you home, pick you up after?
And don't be ashamed or afraid to say, could everyone leave the room? I need a minute.
No.
Yeah. The other thing, I just saw this come up in the chat, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but a really good reminder out is that there are a lot of mobile euthanasia services out there. And I feel very fortunate because I work for an animal welfare agency with veterinarians that I get home euthanasia. If that is an opportunity and it's something you want to consider, definitely look. It's a burgeoning industry now. Just to help people, it takes away a lot of that anxiety for the pet, for yourself, in the comfort of your own home. It's just another option.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is so true. And like you said, it's becoming a real niche specialty.
Mm-hmm.
And along the lines is what you were saying, like, don't be afraid to do this, or don't be ashamed to ask everyone to leave. Don't be afraid to interview a couple different mobile vets to find one that
and look at reviews.
Exactly, that fits your style, one that, you know, if you want kind of a ceremony, or this to be very sacred, or, you know, even just the vibe that you get off that person, that vet, is so important when you call. And don't be afraid to ask for referrals, and just we're both such tremendous advocates of asking for what you need in this
Absolutely. Because this is, it's human nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may have 15, 16 years with this companion. You may have 2 or 3. It all depends on what has happened. But we tend to focus on that last few minutes, few days, few weeks prior to them departing. And we will go through that over and over and over again till we get to a point where we can look beyond, farther into the history of our lives with these animals.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Patty, because you're so right. And I know I've done this. I did this for a week after Jem passed, but the human mind, again, it does not like uncertainty. It cannot sit with uncertainty. So it looks for answers. It looks for whys. It looks for, could I, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and we don't stop until we find an answer. And the thing that actually absolutely is heart ripping with grief is there is no answer. There is no reason why. This is not a meant to be or that everything has a reason moment. No, not at all. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up.
It's a real toughie, you know, and this applies to our human companions, our animal companions. We do tend to focus and narrow down on that time. And there's a lady that I work with on some grief, Colleen Ellis. She coined the phrase "in the dash," and she's like, you know, you have to remember the dash. The dash is the before, you know, the born on date and the departure date. There's a whole lot of living in that dash that we need to focus on, because invariably that's what made our lives so full. That's why this hurts so much.
I love that. That's, yeah, up until that day they lived. They lived, like they lived, capital LIVED. And those memories that you made together while they were living, you will have those forever. I will take this moment to, I hear so often, I'm going to forget. I'm here to tell you, you are absolutely not going to forget.
No.
And if you do want some insurance, get a dedicated journal. And when those memories pop in your mind, just write them down. Or what the young kids tell me that they do these days is that they
young kids, you're one of those young kids.
Thanks, Patty, but no. This came from another highly respected psychologist that used to be a colleague of mine in Palo Alto. But she said, you know, if a journal seems too intimidating, just take the video on your phone and record yourself sharing those stories. Those are private. You don't have to share those. Yeah, it's just, we all have our phones in our hands.
Oh, Katie, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and then you can keep a memory and you can go into as much detail as you want. I think some of us, writing a journal seems daunting or intimidating, or whatever reason, that's an insurmountable hurdle right now. Just grab it, and it's private. You don't ever have to share it, and it's, then you have those memories, you have insurance on them. So,
well, I have one more particularly maudlin question.
Always.
But it comes up in discussion quite a bit, and it just popped into my mind when we were talking, and I have had folks ask, like, what do your other pets think about this? And to funeral or not to funeral. And personally, we're funeral people. We set up a bed, we put whomever it was in their favorite place in the living room. We all watch TV with them. It may sound crazy. I don't care. Because for us, it is a way of letting our other animals come up and investigate and have their own, you know, reality check, I guess, with what's going on. It actually helps us. I reach over, I pet, I know that they're not there, but we just need, the whole household just for some reason needs it. And what do you think about all of that?
That's the whole foundation with our humans too. Rituals and funerals and sacred and spiritual beliefs, you know, in those absolutely daunting, dizzying, just surreal days of grief, the rituals, the funerals, the point of them is that they give us something to hold on to tangibly, picking out the readings, writing the words that we're going to say. I mean, otherwise some of us would lose our minds, where we wouldn't get out of bed. And I do think, you know, again, Patty, we're just starting to realize how brilliant and emotional and sensitive animals are. I'm a huge believer that they know so much more than we as the human species give them credit for. And I mean, I personally, I'm just a huge believer. I told Bear that Jem had passed,
Of
and tried
course.
to explain, yeah, and tried to explain it. And you know, Bear sees Jem's ashes every day. And no, I'm a huge proponent. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
No,
Yeah, go find your people. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But I don't.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm chuckling because there's all kinds of things that we do, and I think that as long as it feels right and you're not hurting
Hurting.
anyone and you are helping. I'm laughing because our we had a house full of 4 dogs and my Teddy passed, and it's like a 65-pound dog and had his bed and everything set up. And my husband and I were like, how do you know how long is too long? And I said, this is how we know. One of our smaller dogs had crawled up on top and decided to take a nap. And I said, I think they're good with it. I think they get it. We're what gives me, I don't know what anyone believes on this, but I believe that the humans are the low man on the totem pole. We all act like we're all that in a bag of chips, and we're just, screwing stuff up left and right. And I think that our curse is knowing that someday we're going to die and we have to live in spite of that. Whereas our precious animals, they're living in the present, enjoying the little things. Someday they get to where they don't feel well and they're not even scared. They're just like, I just don't feel good today. And then, things move along, but they don't live in that like, oh my God, I know it's cancer. I know that's what it is. They don't do that.
Patty, you missed your calling as a psychologist because there's actually a whole theory on that called terror management theory in psychology that afflicts humans. And it's exactly what you said. We know that we are mortal and that we are going to die. So we put all this stuff
Oh,
in our lives, from the superficial to the material, to evade that thought. Because if we really sat down and pondered that we are going to die, we would be terrified. I mean, that's
and we wouldn't do anything.
exactly it. We would
Why
be
am
in the
I going to
fetal.
build a bridge? I'm going to die.
Exactly. And that is the whole I mean, that was it in a nutshell. But yeah,
Right.
terror management theory. And I think we can't. I'm looking at two lazy, sleeping, wonderful dogs on the couch right here, and they live in the moment and they show love. And I think with humans, geez, we get in our way
All
so
the time.
much. We're so focused up here when we need to be leading with here, and we get in our way so much, our own way so much.
So our biggest takeaway today is get out of our own way.
Look at the way they show us affection. They're not sitting, I don't, they're not overthinking or overanalyzing. They enjoy the treats they lay out in the sun. They give their love. And I think there are, so without sounding, I see the hearts going off, but without sounding too cliche, because I do think this is all scientifically based, we can learn so much from them.
But I got a giant goofball right now that has a cancer diagnosis.
Oh, Patty, oh, you're back.
Sorry. Trying
No,
to
you're
figure
great.
out what to do to keep this bandage on her leg. Now, she has a cancer diagnosis and it's not good. And Cam, come on, Cam. I just wanted you to see a crazy wiggle butt. Here she comes. Y'all will enjoy this. There she is. Hello. You need to talk to everybody. Huh? Would you like to tell everyone hello? Yes, that is cancer diagnosis. Yep.
But the thing is,
There she is. Sorry. There
no.
she is. She has a pool noodle collar because she chews at her stitches. And she is yeah.
Come here.
She's a blue hippo, is what she is.
A blue.
And
I'm gonna.
to her, look at this face. There is nothing that says anything other than, are we going to the park today? That's about it.
Something's gonna get this. I mean, gosh, we're having a. I think we pride ourselves on the honesty. The heart. You look at Patty on this side. Can you see them all?
For the hippo wants to go for a walk.
But honestly, something is going to get us all in the end. None of us are getting out of here alive.
No.
We're not. And to live, I'm going to stand up. You are going to see my rainbow sweatpants. They were a gift from my sister, and I love them. They give me confidence when I'm doing these. But I'm just going to grab Bear real quick because I know. Come here. Oh, okay. This little guy, just because we're wrapping up, this little guy is, I know Vinny's going to join. He's going on at least, say hi there. He's going on at least 12. When I adopted him from the Sacramento SPCA more than a decade ago, he's at least 12, more probably like 14. But all we can do is try our best in that moment. We can't go back to the past. It's impossible. No one's figured out how, and we don't know what the next hour is going to hold for any of us. Oh, you couldn't see it. Okay.
And I love your rainbow sweatpants, and someone else on here loves them too. Yes.
People couldn't see my sister gave them to me, and Patty, I'm a huge introvert, so I put them on as a gentle reminder that this is so important to me, and that I don't want to let social anxiety get in my way of talking about something that is so incredibly meaningful and fulfilling. This is both of our life's passion. So
truly, and apparently thank you to everyone who has joined. I feel your love and your passion just flowing through. It's, I know, Katie, you're going to be putting up some resources and some guides. I'm going to put them on our Angels Rest page, because I feel like we just can't get this word out enough about be yourself, love yourself, give yourself space and time. And I'm going to work on my boundaries. If everyone else on here will join me in having good boundaries, because, if we don't keep ourselves healthy, then we can't help all the other people who need help. And that's super important.
Well, it's just like I always encourage anyone that I work with, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting others. And that's so true. If we don't put our own on, we can't help. And for those of us that get our self-worth and our validation from helping others, it has to stem from self-care. And we're going to share this video after. We're going to figure out how Instagram will let us be collaborators. So hopefully it will be on both of our pages.
Great. Can I make a funny for you?
Yes, of course.
You want me to make a funny for him? So I was sitting on a Southwest flight, and they like to yuck it up. And she said, so should we experience a sudden loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will fall. And it is important to put your oxygen mask on before assisting anyone else, because no one will mind walking over your lifeless body on their way out of the plane.
Okay, so I'm smiling because I'm in my house in a chair. As a nervous flyer, fun fact about me, Patty, I did not fly for 2 years, and I took Amtrak. I was going to school in New York at the time. I took Amtrak back and forth across the country 8 times. This is not sponsored by Amtrak, but I am a platinum status Amtrak member because of that time. I wouldn't have handled that very well at all.
Okay, well, one other one they used was if we experience a sudden loss of pressure, please put your mask on. If you are with 2 children, pick the one you think who will be the most successful to help next.
That's Vinny laughing. Vinny, I rescued, much to their delight, a dog for my parents. About a decade ago.
Can we say we love everyone on this call?
Yes,
and that we want everyone to be well, including Vinny. Vinny says he seconds that, right?
Vinny's I'm gonna go attend to this situation. I think he's just excited. Sorry, everyone. Patty, let's do this again.
I love this. I love you, Katie.
Vinny says I love you too. And we'll post this and we'll see everyone soon. Thank you.
Sounds perfect.
Everyone so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.